The most offensive F word you know is fear. A badass becomes fearless. Flipping the format on the fear of failure. Badass is an acronym, and each Wednesday, Kelly shares tips, tools, and information about how you can become licensed to be badass too. Turn up your energy with Wednesday Wisdom. Here again is Kelly Orchard. Hop on the bus to Badassville.
That is right, Bobby Ocean. We are hopping on the bus to Badassville as we speak. I'm Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. I am certifying badasses one podcast at a time. That's right. So happy to have the bus back up and running. Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit later, but I do have a badass certification class coming up. It's the first live one in a long time. So first of all, let me just tell you, the month of September, it's my birthday month. Wednesday Wisdom is covering the A in the Badass acronym. That means attitude is everything, and you need a positive one in order to succeed. Here's a little bit of a news update for you. New life in my family. That's right. So as I juggle caring for my 84-year-old parents, which is, hey, I got to admit, sometimes these podcasts are not going to get done. I don't know which ones. I'm trying to be very consistent for you because I feel good about that as well. But every once in a while, something's going to happen with my parents, and I'm going to have to make the podcast put on the kind of the side burner, not necessarily the back burner, but over on the side for a minute while I take care of my parents. So, it's like I am caring for my 84-year-old parents in their twilight years. I've been sharing with you a little bit of the details without disclosing too much. But meanwhile, I've had to consider hiring a caregiver and things like that. But I get a call from my daughter, who I've shared with you, lives in Texas now. I spent the week of 4th of July out in Texas, and I told you about that. But she's got Granberry number 5 is on its way. That's right. So I am going to be a grandmother for the 5th time coming up in March. So I have all these. I feel like I'm a juggler in the circus right now with all of these balls I've got in the air that I'm trying to be entertaining, and I'm doing spins, and I've got the plates over here too, but meanwhile I'm still trying to catch these balls so they don't fall through. But the thing is that I tell my clients all the time, and I tell you, is that the tools that I am employing and I'm sharing with you actually do work, because I'm going through some pretty difficult emotional, personal life things, and I've got a lot of professional and business changes happening as well, things that I will fill you in on as they go. But the thing is that you need some tools in your toolbox to navigate all of these change, because, my attitude and remaining positive right now is critical to not only my success, but even my survival. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, I know that you have some of these things going on too. And anybody who's listening to the podcast, thank you. Because what you're doing is you're filling your cup with new tools and new information and new ideas. Sometimes, yes, the ones that come from me, or maybe it's one thing that I share with you that's come from somebody else. So pay it forward a little bit, just by practicing them. Balance, organization, and being strategic, having some plans. That's how you navigate, some of these things. So some of the things that I am trying to do right now is to navigate going to Texas to see my daughter while she's pregnant. And then I'll also be able to see my other 2 Granberries, Finley and Olivia, out there. And then the desire to spend a good amount of time with her when the baby arrives in March. This is going to be a first for me. My last 4 grandchildren were born very close proximity to me, so I didn't have to be that strategic as far as how I was going to spend my time as, grandmother and taking care of my daughter if necessary. So I am starting to have to make some alternate plans for my 2022, which I hadn't really had thought of that was going to occur. I mean, obviously I knew I would be going to see my daughter, but to try to spend an entire month out there, a lot of things have to be navigated and taken care of here at home as well, with my work and with my parents and with my house. So this takes some balance. It takes, some critical thinking skills. It takes some organization, and it takes being strategic. So, How do you juggle that and how do I keep my parents safe, happy, and healthy? I'm definitely in this sandwich generation. No kidding. And I wonder, how did that happen? I don't know. How did this happen? But I know that a lot of us are in this, this situation. So, Wednesday Wisdom is about skills and drills for certified badasses. And I'm so glad that you're here. This is middle of September already. Can you believe it? The year is just flying by, and I know that the world is still a very crazy place. So when you're on this podcast and you're listening to me, we don't talk about that. We just talk about you. We talk about anything for successful badassery. I have been sharing a little bit of excerpts from other podcasts that I did previously. Yes, sort of as a teaser to get you to, hey, scroll back to the beginning and listen to some of them, because I took you through the entire acronym of the badass. Okay. And so B is for be yourself. A, attitude is everything, and you need a positive one if you're going to succeed. And that's what we're dealing with in the month of September. But I do want to go back and see what I did in February. And again in another month. From April, I wanted to share this with you. And first of all, about Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day. It's on the same podcast platform that you're listening to this right now. The last part of September and in October, we are talking. I have a whole crate full of apples about an extraordinary life. So if you want to know how to be extraordinary, or that you already are extraordinary, or anything that has to do with living an extraordinary life, I would love to encourage you to, subscribe to Kelly Orchard's Apple a Day on this same podcast platform that you're listening to right now. The important thing that you need to know to rediscover yourself, and that's part of the Wednesday Wisdom, is rediscovering who you are, is follow your heart. And that's a step-by-step process. When I began graduate school at the time when my heart problems were still unresolved, it was a step forward toward following my heart. The process was long, and I had to remind myself every day, with every class I attended, every assignment I had to complete, and every task I undertook, that I was on a journey that would eventually result in a master's degree. Then I would still have more work to do to become a licensed therapist and a coach. In the book Positive Thinking, How to Be Positive by Eliminating Negativity by David A. Hunter, he writes, you can't just wait until the last minute before you start to think in a positive way in hope of helping yourself out of a negative situation. It would be like waiting until you are severely dehydrated before you finally start to drink water. Now, I love this quote, and I use it often. I mean, imagine that. It's like, remember what I talked about, last week regarding my time with the Rotary and meeting this woman that had just climbed Mount Whitney. Well, if she thought that she was going to be able to climb Mount Whitney and didn't take any water, she would have been dehydrated an hour in, and she wouldn't have made it. But she was smart enough to know, she trained and knew that she needed to drink that water. And I love that. I love this this quote, and I obviously use it very often. So when you listen to your heart specifically, I remember when my cardiologist was asking me what I did when my heart jumped into long periods of arrhythmia. I shared a little of this story in an earlier course, but here's the facts that I didn't reveal. My case was garden variety arrhythmia, but unusually chronic and persistent. I would have episodes that would last 15 minutes at any given time, multiple times a day for months on end. I would essentially be in AFib for at least 3 to 7 hours per day, every day. It wore me out physically and made the incapable of leading a normal life. It was pretty impossible to go anywhere or do anything without feeling anxiety that my heart would just act out at any time. You ask any parent with an especially unpredictable toddler and how they go out in public, and they'd probably tell you that they would prefer to stay home. Once my heart failed and I began taking steps of paying attention and transforming, I learned how to listen to my heart, and not only my physical heart, but things that were important to me. You must form new subconscious beliefs if you want positive changes. You got to replace that negative record that keeps playing in the background. Remember, a badass is aware of their emotions. A badass acknowledges their fears and owns them. And a badass knows when they need a positive attitude adjustment. But here's also another deal that you got to have. You got to play the hand you're dealt. You can't wish you had somebody else's life. And it's like, here's the thing. At the beginning of this whole COVID thing, I was like, okay, I've been trying to play the hand I'm dealt, but what game are we playing exactly? I feel like we were playing Go Fish and the game suddenly changed and we're playing poker or Old Maid, and I have no idea what the rules are. That's what it feels like when your life has been derailed and you've had the rug pulled out from under you and there is no floor to catch you. And I know that so many of us feel that way right now. The thing is that the hand that I've been dealt doesn't have to be the hand that I play, because you're always getting new cards and you can always discard some of these cards. Sometimes you just got to show some grace or have some patience or wait it out or flip the whole format. Whatever it is, you got to have an attitude adjustment. So that's why you keep coming back to the podcast for Successful Badassery. Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. And we are now on to skills to improve your self-knowledge. What is your relationship culture? I really love this article. I got it out of a website called Mind Body Green. And it really is helpful. I'm thinking about not only just, relationships, because that's what I deal with in my psychotherapy practice. It's more about people's interpersonal relationships, but also working with businesses and your relationships in your work culture, which is so much has changed. Wouldn't you agree? So much has changed. Now, I really love this article. It's titled, "Does Your Relationship Have a Culture of Appreciation and Why It's So Important?" Written by an author, a psychoanalyst named Jordan Dan in Mind Body Green. I'll provide the link for you in the show notes as promised. I'm going to paraphrase and just kind of peruse through it, but I don't want you to think I'm plagiarizing. That is not my aim here. This is an article that I'm just going to kind of read to you, because why do I need to reinvent the wheel here, right? But, it's like, have you ever considered that the role of good management plays in successful companies? Employing the metaphor of management can be helpful frame when you reflect on your behavior in your relationship. All right. So, for example, if you wanted to have a successful company, you would take great care and time to articulate your mission, values, objectives, and to identify the corresponding behavior required to embody this mission. Hey, if you're not doing this in your business already, take note. All right. The same is true in your partnership. The more intentional and clear you can be with your partner about the values and behaviors of your partnership, the more successful, joyful, and satisfying your relationship culture will be. Likewise, we can look to good management practices to understand the importance of building a culture of appreciation in our relationship, a necessary skill increasing relationship fulfillment. Now, when we're talking about relationships, these can be a relationship with your staff, with your spouse, with your business partner, with your friendship. So don't always think that we're only talking about romantic relationships. We're talking about all across the board, your children, any loved ones, okay? All right, so in relationships, a robust appreciation practice is a tremendous way to ward off resentment and criticism. Making daily deposits of appreciation into the bank account of your relationship will also develop a culture of goodwill and high regard. The daily appreciations you offer your partner will create a reserve of generosity and trust, which will serve your partnership during inevitable moments of conflict. The more we appreciate our partner, the more we trust their love and commitment, which allows us to listen to frustrations with greater openness and to recover from conflict with more resiliency. So, what are some of the examples of appreciation in relationships? Appreciations that are related to the characteristics and quality of your partner brings to the world and others. Like, for example, I appreciate how much you care about the project you're working on. All right, so appreciations that are related to partner autonomous pursuits, goals, or values. How about, I really appreciate how dedicated you are to your whatever practice, and how much you give back to the community. I feel proud of who you are when I see you doing these things. Appreciations that recognize and deepen ways that your partner makes you feel good. I appreciate the perspective you offered me the other day. I feel cared about when you take time to respond to the things that I care about. So how can you build a culture of appreciation in your relationship and in your in your business? In a thriving company, positive recognition is one of the fundamental ways that managers support the health, sustainability, and success of a company. However, if we borrow business research as a way to explore partnership satisfaction, we can also learn a great deal. Research shows that in most companies, employee recognition is scarce because of a combination of several factors. People don't know how to provide recognition effectively. People assume one size fits all relationship to recognition. People think too narrowly about what people find rewarding and what constitutes recognition. And people don't offer timely recognition. So there's more to this article if you want to have a peek at it. Like I said, I will put the link into the show notes. It is from Mind Body Green, and it is called Create a Culture of Appreciation in Relationships. All right, so skills and drills. I have a little story I want to tell you about my dad. I told this a while back, or at least I think I did, or maybe I just thought about it a while back and I've never used it. But, I titled it like being in sync. And I don't mean the band. My dad was not in the band In Sync. He was in radio, though. But anyway, that's just whatever. I digress. But, he always sat on the other side of the glass from the DJs. And what do I mean by that? My dad's work as an engineer for Boss Radio in Los Angeles, was kind of legendary, actually. He's had a diverse job as an engineer in the broadcast field in Los Angeles from 1959 to 1980 when he left so that he could build and own and operate his own radio station. And I tell you those stories. He was a cameraman for television. He was setting up remote broadcasts at golf tournaments and such like that, and parades, like the, Rose Parade. We lived in Los Angeles. He had home movie footage of setting up the cameras to record, the Rose Parade. He did a lot of things like that and golf tournaments. And, these are things that were in the house. But on the audio side, he set up live broadcasts at these fancy restaurants like the Brown Derby in Hollywood, and taking equipment with Tiny Tim and other musical artists to go record at different interviews and such. And also here at the radio station, he would run the board for the DJs. See, running the board at a radio station back in those days at KHJ, when it was owned by RKO General, it was a union organization. So at that time, that meant that only an engineer could touch the equipment. So the disc jockeys never actually touched the equipment. So it was like they actually ran shifts together. So there would be my dad and these big name DJs in Los Angeles. My dad was their sidekick during that time. So they were on the air. My dad was the one, it was his job to play the music and all the commercials and all the sound bites that you hear, and hitting all the keys to do everything. Whereas the DJ was just sitting on the other side of the desk, the other side of the glass, wearing his headphones with a microphone in front of him, some liner cards, his scripts, probably some coffee, and back in those days, cigarettes. But they worked as a team. They made eye contact with each other. They were in sync. They knew exactly what the other one was going to be doing. My dad had the capability of making you laugh and making it fun. How do I know this? Because I experienced it myself working with my dad once we built our own radio stations. I oftentimes imagine how he was with those big-time DJs on the other side of the glass. My dad wasn't famous, and he didn't get credit for how well a live show went each shift or how brilliant that disc jockey was. It was the on-air DJ that got all the glory, even though an engineer like my dad kind of helped him and how he sounded, being tight on the air, music sounding right, having that energy and that fun. So what's the point of my story? Teamwork, integrity. Even if you don't get the credit, you're not always the captain, but you'll use those skills later. Learn to lead by being willing to be a sidekick. If you're seeking leadership, this is syncing with the program. It's a nice segue to what comes next. All right, so I have another song for you today, but this time it's from the Badass soundtracks taken straight from my brand strategist. You need a little positive affirmation, so crank up this song. I'm just going to give you the lyrics, of course. So, and it's from the Greatest Showman ensemble. So it's like, when the sharpest words want to cut me down, I'm going to send a flood, going to drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised. I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, because here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. And that's badass. Absolutely. All right, so hey, what song makes you feel invincible? Because this is what Badass Jen gave me today when I was asking her for a song that I could feature this week, and she gave me this one, and I'm so glad, because I could have picked my own and it wouldn't have been this one. And that's what I love about this, is like, this is unique to Badass Jen. And that is what I call her, which is why I want to give you her address, her email address, Badass Jen. That's Badass Jen, Jen, at licensed2bebadass.com. Here's what's going on here. This, like I said, this is my birthday month, and in a couple of weeks, I am going to Sedona. So I've been working on a Sedona soundtrack as I'm heading out there again at the end of the month with some friends this time. It's going to be a different experience than the 3 times I went last year. What are my expectations? Well, a little bit of hiking, a few self-care treatments, a little tourism, and I think we are going to be doing the Pink Jeep Tour this time. That's on the agenda as well. And we'll probably get our auras read for fun. So what songs will make the soundtrack? I really don't know yet. What do you think? What I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you put on a soundtrack for Sedona with the description that I gave you just now? So just so you know, the bus to Badassville is back in service. That's right. As soon as I get back from Sedona, my first live and in-person Badass certification class is scheduled for departure in just a couple of weeks after that. So if you're ready to obtain the tools to be bold, be brave, be confident, and be badass, I've got a ticket waiting for you. But hurry, because these seats sell out really fast. So please send an email to badassjen at licensed2bebadass.com. Ask her all the details, and she will save your seat. In the meantime, Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. So happy that I got a Badass certification class coming up. Aren't you, Bobby?
Like CPR for your mental health, sign up for the Badass Certification class. Friday again, we turn up the energy. Tune in and tune up. Be bold, be brave, be confident, be badass.